Andrew Demko here at Demko Knives to talk to you today about Demco custom knives. Our roots are custom knife makers. We've been making custom knives. I've been making custom knives, not well, but since I was in 7th grade. It took me about 6 years to actually make a good custom knife that I could actually sell when I was right out of high school, which I did. And I've been making and selling custom knives ever since then. So what are the custom knives that we call custom knives? How do they differ from our MG or machine ground blades that we typically manufacture? So this is a variety of blades that are custom. So how are they custom is they're hand ground, always they're hand ground, as opposed to on the machine grinder. And typically we hollow grind the custom. So here's an example of, this is the raw blade. It is sharpened. This is a flat ground blade. You can call it taper grind or flat grind. It's flat. If you put a ruler on here, it's flat. Typically on customs, we like to hollow grind. Here's a good example of a full hollow ground blade. And if you put a straight edge across there, you would see this is hollow in the middle. Technically, a hollow ground blade is when this up here is thinner than the cutting edge. And this knife probably is that way. That's the most correct form of a hollow grind blade. But generically, we can say that anything that is concaved is hollow ground. Anything that's flat is flat ground, or it could be convex this way, which would be a convex grind. So 3 grinds: convex, concave, or flat. We are typically doing concave or hollow and flat. So all of these knives are our 80-20 XXX knife, meaning that it's extra larger this way, extra wide, and then it's a thicker blade, extra thick 1/4-inch blade. So these have been all done to various conditions on a large grinding machine. This is an 80-20 custom. It has a fine hollow satin finish, a fine cutting edge. It is hollow ground, as I said. The edge is thin. This will end up being a beautiful custom knife. All of these hand ground blades start off like this in the full block. You can see our scribe lines. So we start grinding down on those machines to these lines and end up like this. This is full hard 3V in this case, and it kills a lot of belts. There's probably, I would say there's over $100, $150 in belts on these big knives on that wheel, because that's a slow cutting wheel. When we do these knives, we're using typically one of a few different grinding machines. And I have 2 or 3 more grinders at home that we still use. This particularly is a 20-inch grinding wheel, and it does a great job. And I'll show you how that works slightly. I think this is the one I was working on now. I'm still working on the flats. So we'll go over here. There's 2 types of wheels you can use for grinding. This is a smooth wheel. You can see there's no serrations in it. The other wheels have serrations cut in them. They cut very fast. This wheel cuts incredibly slow and uses tons of abrasives. Like, we are amazed every time we use it, but it makes a fine finish. So, hey, and if you're not over 6 feet tall, this height's not gonna work out for you. You have to make your grinder, a comfortable height for your hands, okay? So I'm just gonna turn this on low speed, and I'm gonna run some finishing passes on this, get the tracking right. You wanna make sure this belt is, just off the edge here. And I'm gonna put just a little bit of oil on this. Add your oil from the side, guys. Personal protection equipment, masks. This is not allowed now on this finishing phases, but ear protection, safety glasses, but masks. But for now, just safety glasses. So I'm gonna come through here and I'm gonna just chase this hollow out right now. So I get in there, just work this back and forth. And the real art to this is that you have to do this, but then you have to roll your blade typically. So you'll see that I'm starting to, there's a lot of different lines in here. So you just can't pull straight. You won't contact the whole thing because the radius of the wheel, the way the blade is. So you have to, there's a real bit of filling involved here. We'll see if we can get this good. Oh, I'm getting there. Okay, so now, I don't know how it looks on camera, but by my eye, it looks very nice. I see a little shadow there I'll work on. Honestly, that belt might be a little bit dull, but it's coming pretty good. I'm just gonna give it one more bit. I know I need to work on this, so not only do I have to do this, but I'm gonna have to roll this knife because I don't want this edge to get too thin. So this is what separates the knife makers from the not knife makers, knowing how to grind a knife, especially by hand. Which this is how we do customs, as you know, and all of our prototyping and different samples for manufacturers. I'm almost there. And this takes about, we start off with a 36 grit, we go down to a 60 grit, then we hit it with an 80 grit, and then we hit it with a 120, a 180, a 220, and a 240, and this is a 240. And then maybe further past that, we might go from a 240 to a Scotch-Brite or to a cork belt or to a tumble. I'm getting there. So once I would do both sides, then I would clean these lines up, clean this spine up, do some buffing here, and get ready to dry fit to make sure the knife is, I haven't ground the knife unevenly, because that can happen. You get overzealous on one side, you put it in your frame, and all of a sudden it's not on center. So there's a ways to go here, but this is on the way to being a fine, fine custom knife. Here's an example of, this one is completely ground and tumbled. This one is in process of being acid etch stone washed, and we're gonna brighten these flats up. This is a complete acid etch and tumble. It's got a good distressed look. This is fingernail polishing here because you have to polish, keep the acid off all your faces that touch each other so they stay really smooth. Here's an example. This is a big hollow grind. These are Megalodon blades. There's 4 blades we're working on here that have been completely hand ground. The hollow grind is really cool because you can get a really high grind here, and you can keep a real substantial point just the way you move it on the wheel. Basically, if it's a custom knife, it has a hand ground blade, and then we'll also do custom options to it that we wouldn't do on our normal MG. For example, this would be basically our normal MG frame or production frame, but in this case, it has the hand ground 3V distressed blade, and that is a cool looking blade. Are they better? No, it's preference. Does this cut better than this? There are some attributes to both of these knives, whether they're flat ground or hollow ground, but either one makes a great, great knife. We just prefer to hollow grind our customs because we machine grind or flat grind our standard production. Here's an example. This is basically a full custom that we're working on. It is the 8020 XXX, the machine handle, but then it's treated, there's some hand sculpting in there. This probably has multiple anodizing layers on it. And it does have the satin finish. See if I can make that look nice. A satin finish, 2-tone satin finish on that blade. And we have a thick cutting edge. You can get away with a thick cutting edge if it's a hollow ground knife. If it's a flat ground knife and you have this thick cutting edge, it's more like a cold chisel. But because it's thinner back here than here, you can get a robust cutting edge on a hollow ground knife like this and still have a lot of cutting potential. And this is just an awesome, we call it the bone cutting edge because there's no amount of deer pelvises or anything that will chip that edge when it's that thick, but still it cuts very, very well. So this would be considered a Demco custom. Here's another example of a hand ground blade. You may have seen this prototype already. This is flat ground. We believe that a knife like this is best full flat ground or, almost full flat ground. So this was all ground by hand. This is just a heat treat lines because we were making it and testing it. And this cuts very, very well. But it's another example of how we'll prove out a product. This is completely handmade handle and hand ground blade. We heat treat it here in-house. We prove out this product, and then we'll start in production on the water jet and grinding machine and put it in production. So this is just a little example of what hand grinding and handmade knives look like and how we do here at Demco Knives. Who is a custom knife for? I want to buy a custom knife. Here's the deal. The custom knife is no better than the machine ground knife. Performance-wise, again, you may find a little bit of here and there performance with the flat grind versus the hollow grind. However, who the knife for is the real enthusiast who wants the hand ground blade or maybe the different finishes. It's just, if you're really into Demco knives or custom knives in general, you might prefer the Handground blade. You know, there's a huge aftermarket to that. You know, it becomes more of a work of art or something you're buying from some skilled or well-known craftsman, you know, and really the custom knife ultimately is usually valued at more than the sum of its parts. Takes the machine ground blades or the production blades and really takes it up to another level of, you know, why isn't a Corvette good enough? Why do I have to have a Ferrari? It's a whole nother level of craftsmanship and quality. I get requests every day. We really only make custom knives for shows. Again, our roots being knife makers, custom knife makers, we like to make knives and go to shows and sell those knives. And we like to give people who are willing to come to a show and see us there something a little bit extra. We could sell a lot more custom knives. However, my tolerance for making custom knives is not great. I tell people it's like putting up your Christmas tree is super fun after Thanksgiving. You don't want to put up a Christmas tree in July. It's just not fun. So, you know, when we're pre-Blade Show, pre-New York Custom Knife Show, pre-Texas Blade Show, it's fun to make custom knives and do unique, cool things. But we keep that very limited. So, we're not making more than 20 per show. Sometimes I've only made 10 per year. So, they're hard to find. They're a little bit sought after. There is a rarity to them because, our business necessarily isn't custom knives anymore, which is something we like to do as an addition to keep everybody engaged and interested, and it's pretty awesome to have. But our main focus is manufacturing. That's what we do. But again, we still like to have some custom offerings. Even though we can make everything here in a manufacturing quantity or level, we still like to keep our roots of making custom knives. It's in demand, and we're happy to keep them going at a limited quantity because, hey, I can't just grind knives all day. We have to design, we have to produce. But it is a really cool addition to Demco Knives.